Hello.
Debbie. We have Debbie today. She is an instructor of voice within our college. And then we also have Keith Harker, and he is a recent graduate of our Vocology Certificate. And I'm JT Robertson, and I'm the Communications and Marketing Coordinator for the College of Fine Arts and Communication. And I'll sort of be your host today. So before we get started, I want to remind everyone to please mute your volume so that it won't distract everyone when we're talking. Also want to remind everyone that this session is being recorded, and in a couple of days it will be up on lamar.edu/visit, and you can go back and re-listen to anything that you might have a question about. And oh, also, if you have any questions, you can type them in the sidebar. And after everyone speaks, we'll try to get around and answer everyone's questions. So without further ado, I introduce you to Miss Abigail Dupin.
Ooh. So I just wanted to give a brief background, some information about myself, and then I'll let our other two faculty members, Dr. Nandhu and Debbie, introduce themselves, and then also our recent graduate, Keith Harker. So my name is Abby Dupin, and I am a coloratura soprano. I have sung a lot of different places, and I went back to school because I was really super interested in voice science and how that relates to pedagogy and to literature. And I worked under my mentor, who is now my colleague, Dr. Nandhu. And so we have all got together with Ms. Greschner as well and developed the Vocology program. We strongly believe in its applicability to build marketable skills for those in that are private voice teachers, that are also speech language pathologists or acousticians, really a variety of careers would find this useful, vocal coaches. But I'm also a certified speech language pathologist, and I specialize in voice disorders, and I am starting my PhD coming up in the fall to research more of that.
You want to tell us a little bit more about our program and maybe what makes this program so unique? And also, we might want to talk about the fact that there's not many other programs, if any, available in the United States like this.
Right. So really our aim is to train vocologists, and we have come together and developed a cutting edge theoretical and applied curriculum that really helps to place our students, we hope helps to place our students on the forefront of this really emerging and relevant field. And we connect speech science and speech anatomy and physiology, vocal performance pedagogy, instrumentation, and vocal habilitation through our interdisciplinary efforts. And we feel like we are uniquely suited to have this program because of our historically strong programs in both music and in speech language pathology. And all of our faculty are trained specialists in our curriculum and our voice lab and vocology clinic. And we really help our students to acquire a foundational knowledge of acoustics, again, anatomy and physiology of the vocal mechanism, and correlate that to auditory perception, analyze and interpret information, and incorporate that knowledge into their own intervention or teaching. And we don't require anyone who owns stroboscopic equipment, so that's always a plus. That will save you several $100,000. But it really, we work to provide a practical knowledge that anyone can use in their studios as well as in their clinics. Again, it's really for those that are really interested in developing additional, really a wonderful skill set. I think that's absolutely applicable to building a career in and around voice. Really, our program, I think, differs from others because our curriculum is so broad, and the online delivery, I think, is what really helps our program as well, because you can access it from anywhere in the world. The schedule is very flexible, and our students are able to complete it as their schedule allows, so that we do actually have a lot of students who have full-time jobs as professors of music in universities that have full studios, or that are working speech language pathologists or working singers as well, and coaches. So it really, really varies.
So you said most of your students already work a full-time job. So tell us a little bit about what the time commitment is for this. What can a student expect?
So typically it's anywhere from, I would say, 6 hours a week, maybe maximum. And then we have some semesters where there's only 3 credits in that semester, so the time commitment's a little bit less. But I would actually, can I direct this question to Keith and ask him, since he has personal experience as a student? So what's your answer for this?
I'd have to say that that's a pretty fair assessment. At least for the vast majority of the coursework. There are some moments of fluctuation. Predominantly, I've personally found myself getting slightly bogged down because my day job, or at least one of my partial day jobs, involves an awful lot of traveling, and not in a way that I can sit comfortably and read a book or anything from a digital device. So finding the stretches of time to do that was really the only truthfully difficult part. But that was also in a completely different day and age where travel and all that stuff was, possible every day. Oddly enough, since the program persisted into the pandemic, that actually kind of made everything almost too easy. I thought that 6 hours of work was far too manageable. At least a lot of the time. I kind of wished for a little bit more distraction with all the extra free time I had, but honestly, it was completely manageable even when everything was chaotic. And I personally work 3 part-time jobs, so fitting this into everything was very, very, very necessary. Most of my part-time work involves working with touring musicians in a national scale. So obviously all the travel is a little unpredictable. It's also, shall we say, the least efficient thing I've ever encountered in my life. So finding time to schedule work was always very difficult, and having the ability to crack into the program at all hours of the day whenever I could finally get to it, which, sometimes you don't get out of the van from the airport until 2 in the morning. Being able to sit and do some stuff at that point in time was very, very beneficial. Aside from that, too, the content was relevant, especially regarding my personal background pre-existing up until this point. My background's in communication science and disorders from the University of Pittsburgh about a decade ago. A few of the people that are pretty gosh darn high up in the vocology science field were people that I've interacted with in my undergrad. Catherine Vertellini was one of them. And it was just a really great revisitation to the science and the direction that was introduced to me at that point almost a decade ago. And I finally had time, and the chaos of life just kind of slowed down enough that I could really pursue my interest in the reintegration of clinical sciences for voice education. And that was really my focus for even going into that major in undergrad, was somehow figuring out how to bridge the gap between vocal instruction and clinical sciences, simply because as somebody who had to encounter that as a performer in high school, I figured that there could be a more efficient way to go about helping people that would either lose their quality of voice for some way, shape, or form, or desire a different quality down the road. I think that should answer most of the questions, but it was manageable coursework, to go back to it.
Thanks, Keith. That was very good information. And while you're in the hot seat, can you tell us how you feel this helps you professionally, or how this looks on your resume, and how you think this will help you advance in your career?
Sure. So the one thing I will start off by saying is this was quite literally the only program to show up. I have been Googling the term vocology for years, and I will be very honest with that, because whenever you are lucky enough to have somebody like you did like I did in undergrad using the term that nobody else has heard, I always kind of looked into it, and there wasn't any program available for anybody that wasn't already established in a university or going for a PhD program. So just finding that was really phenomenal, and it gave me a lot of hope. Now, as far as the resume is concerned, that's interestingly enough I'm starting to find kind of competition with myself is nobody else knows the term vocology. So now it is my turn to go out into the world and teach everybody this fancy new definition for a word that, you know, is completely irrelevant to them for the most part, but also show them how it is applicable to their day-to-day lives. Most of my students that have continued to come here throughout the pandemic are hobbyist singers. Most of my professional singers have taken time off, but the hobbyist singers really like that extra nuts and bolts kind of explanation. It allows them to catch up for lost time that, you know, singing in high school choir for 4 straight years will very much help you out and to understand that self-awareness. So as far as my personal resume is concerned, I think whenever the definition starts to seep out into the real world, it'll have an awful lot more impact. But it certainly is a great conversation starter for people that are interested in the voice sciences or any type of skill acquisition regarding voice habilitation. I know for, you know, at least in the month that I've had this ability to actually say I've graduated from the program, I can confidently say that it's helped me rope in at least 4 new clients at this point. And they are certainly unique to what I am used to working with. And it's a really interesting time to not only expose myself to a new population of individuals, but also be able to see the progress that they've made thanks to the information that I've gathered from this program and the resources that I'm still, accessing regularly to confirm any type of, adjustments that I decide to make throughout the way. It's truly useful information.
Yeah, thank you for that information. I think that will be very helpful to our future students that have questions about this, because not only is this Vocology certificate unique, but I also feel that our director, Ms. Abigail Dupin, brings very unique experiences to this program, because not only is she a professional singer, but she's also a speech language pathologist, so she understands the science behind it. So I don't know if you want to maybe talk a little bit more about your background, Abigail, and what makes you, what brings so much of your unique experience to this program?
It's just bridging the worlds, really, and bridging performing, bridging teaching privately, bridging practicing as a speech language pathologist, like at the Texas Voice Center at Houston Methodist. I'm still associated there and practice PRN. So it's just kind of bringing all of those different aspects together, and then how do we pass this information on to other people who have other specializations that they can use this to help other people. And I know my background is similar and also different than our other 2 faculty members who are here, and so I'd love it if they would also introduce themselves and their background. Debbie, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Debra Kretchner, and I am on the voice faculty at Lamar, but I have to say that voice science and voice habilitation has long been an interest of mine, actually from before I was even a voice major. I was a theater major, but I was singing in a choir in my freshman year of college. And my choir director said, I have a friend who's a speech pathologist, and I think you should talk to her about this one thing I hear. And it was a revelatory experience. If I hadn't met that particular choir director, I think that I would have been on a path that was different in terms of both vocal health, but also my career choice. And so by meeting her, it really, it made me change my major actually to voice. So I, pursued singing, but it also opened my eyes to how closely related the 2 areas were, but how difficult it was to find someone who was knowledgeable about both areas. Because this is a relatively recent development, I think. Voice science really came into voice pedagogy, only about 50 years ago with the onset of Bernard, and voice science you know, people like Sundberg were doing the research, but now it's kind of filtering out to what I call the rank and file of speech pathologists and voice teachers, and how we have to work together to get speakers and singers to a healthy and efficient production across the board. And I want to go back to the question earlier about how this is relevant. I am always amazed. I just finished going to the NATS conference, the National Association of Teachers of Singing. We had an online conference this year. And to compare the sessions that we had this year, the number that were based in voice science and vocology, to something from 20 years ago when I would go to conferences, it is absolutely, it underlined how important this is to every voice professional, whether they're a voice scientist, a speech pathologist, whether they're a voice user, professional voice user, because vocology talks about habilitation, how to effectively use your voice, how to be aware of the problems. And everybody who works with professionals, whether it's singers or speakers, needs to know where to look, what information to get, and what to do with it. So I'm really passionate about this subject, and I've been passionate about it. So I was thrilled when this all kind of came together at Lamar. And I want to back up what Abby said, that we are uniquely positioned because of the strong program in speech language pathology. And this little known fact, but our previous voice chair, Barbara Mathis, actually did groundbreaking research with Dr. Van Lorence in Houston. I mean, Van Lorence wrote a column for years and was kind of the leading laryngologist who worked with singers. And so I think we've had that background, and it's really exciting to see it come to fruition in this.
Dr. Nandhu.
Yes. Hi, I'm Dr. Nandhu Radhakrishnan. I'm an associate professor at Speech Engineering Sciences. How did I get into this? Well, vocology or vocal training was my primary aim before I could become a speech language pathologist. I wanted to be an actor, be on stage and act. But those days, parents in India, I'm from India, so basically parents decide what you should be. Things have changed now, but those days, that's how it was. My dad, being a laryngologist, he wanted me to go in the field of medicine, but I tried to be a rebel and not pursue that. But one fine day, when I was in his clinic, I did notice a popular movie singer in his office and with a speech language pathologist, and they were trying to work with his voice. So that intrigued me, that if I cannot be an actor, maybe I could go through the back door and get into the field of arts and science. And that's how I picked speech language pathology, did my undergrad and master's in India, and then came to the US to do a PhD under Ron Scherer. Dr. Ron Scherer is a voice scientist and a very well-known, reputed speech language pathologist in the field of voice science. My area of research was to understand what the Indian classical singers do to produce a technique which is pretty similar to vibrato in Western classical singing. Unlike Abigail, who has the singing knowledge and was looking at the science, I was wondering, what are these singers doing that I'm not able to do? So that's what triggered my interest in vocology, voice science, and I still continue to act in community theaters in Houston. And so I'm trying to apply my vocal interests to vocology. And I found myself taking all the courses that are related to vocology in my doctoral program. And since then, I've been wondering how to start a program that I could teach vocology and certify trainees that they are certified vocologists. And everything fell in place when Ingo Tietze, who could be considered the father of vocology all around the world, or at least the one who promoted vocology. So having a chat with him and understanding what his program is all about, which is an intensive 3 months, 9 credit hours on-campus program, which made it difficult for one to leave their family and go and be in Iowa those days and now Utah. So things fell in place when we all put this proposal together and said, let it be an online program with technology that has grown so much. I'm here in Houston with the Gulf of Mexico right behind me, and you all are in Beaumont. So we thought that it is possible to offer this program online. And congratulations to Keith for being our first graduate. So it looks like we are at a good start, and we can continue this online and promote the field of vocology, which I believe is the future of voice therapy. And when my students ask, I always tell them that that's how medicine started. General medicine was the only one where cardiology, neurology, everything was done by the same physician. And then they branched out to ear, nose, and throat, and then ear went separate, throat is separate, and one fine day there will be a left vocal fold specialist. I do see that speech language pathology will branch similarly, and vocology would be the voice part of speech language pathology.
Very good. Thank you both, or thank you all for your wonderful insight. And speaking of that, Abigail, could you talk to us maybe about what type of student you're looking for? I know we talked a lot about singers, but both Drs. Nandhu and Ms. Greschner mentioned the theater arts. Is this maybe something that a theater or an actor or someone like that would be interested in, or what exactly backgrounds is favorable to this certification?
I think professional voice user, voice lover, voice appreciator, I think those fields, because we have so many different backgrounds that are either performers of or teachers of or want to know more about, just really all of those different fields. If you have a love and an interest for the voice in whatever capacity, I mean, vocology is really literally the study of the voice. So would you agree, Debbie and Nandhu?
Yes. I would say that anybody can take this course if they want to learn. And we, all three of us, including the chair of our department, went through that word certification, which is like walking on eggshell. It doesn't mean that one is certified to practice that or become a specialist right away, but it is a certificate that, yes, they have the knowledge. But primarily, it will help those who can make use of this in their profession, and that would be singers, actors, music teachers, and speech language pathologists, and otolaryngologists as well, who are wanting to know the arts part of what they do in their medical science, right?
Yeah, and I think with voice science in the professional voice users, particularly in the performing arts, that there's been such an increase about information, the information available to people who perform and who teach those performers, that we have to know what to do with that information. It doesn't, help us just to know about it if we don't know how to apply it. And I think that's how vocology is also uniquely positioned. I know, Abby, one of the classes you teach is pedagogy for performance. So it's an application. Also, it's not only being aware of the research that's out there, but how do you make it useful, evidence-based? Would you agree, Nandhu?
Yes.
And if I could chime in real fast, Debra's class was possibly the first time I've been exposed to a large amount of very, very useful information. Honestly, I gotta say, her class alone, if I had permanent access to that list of documents, I'd save myself hours of just trying to find very, very useful information. It was incredibly, incredibly poignant. I also have to chime in about the background question, because I know I only really talked about a very clinical sounding education, which, yeah, was the case, but I too, much like Nandhu, went to school for theater initially, and then I realized that I didn't want to go to school for 4 years of learning how to audition, which kind of was how University of Pittsburgh handled it. Very much more interested in science, that university, than performing. So that's just the reason I went there. Aside from that, I got my teaching start in the Barbershop Harmony Society, so I was used to making a whole bunch of folks that learned how to do these tricks from different books and tried to make them all read from the same original manual, which if you are curious about any of that, that was from the Johnny Appleseed district, which is like the northeast section of the United States. And I taught voice anatomy and physiology and basic vocal health for 4 straight years at the convention there. And that kind of is what gave me this instructional knowledge and or this interest in teaching people directly. I always kind of loved the information, and I loved teaching groups of people because I was just a huge nerd about it and didn't really know how I could apply that information in a slightly more professional way. I just kind of thought I was a privileged individual that found a lot of really useful voice science tips to apply to singing, and I was involved in enough singing culture that I just could give it to people. So that was how I originally approached it. It was the Barbershop Harmony Society that really kind of kicked me into this extra type of figuring out my educational route. And that's also where I learned about a lot of voice degradation from things like ALS, and that's where voice habilitation became incredibly important to me. I need to try to keep these old folks trying to sing in the hobbies that they've been doing for the past 75 years, and it really became a big passion for me for a long time, just to have that as my primary focus. But what ended up kind of being the case is everybody that I ended up meeting in that regard started forwarding me to people that were even less related to the fields that I was thinking of. So then this is where your resources come from, that you get from this lovely program. I mean, I sit with this book almost every day of my life. It doesn't actually even make it into the library, which is not a foot away from it. It just stays out on top of it. And it's really just something that you can't get anywhere else. I was also privileged to grow up with a voice teacher that I think was a vocologist, whether or not he knew the term, because he had an anatomy book on the piano every day of my lessons. I was the only person I knew that learned anatomy alongside my music. And now that most of my students are coming to me at an, shall we say, accelerated age, let's say double digits, they really have an interest in functionality more so than, shall we say, the end result. So like the stereotypical high school choir teacher mentality is no longer good enough for a lot of students out there. You can't just be happy enough with matching pitch along with the melody. You have to know how you can do it multiple times. You have to know how you can do it. Every single one of my professional students asks me how to sing while sick, which is like the most traumatic answer you have to give to people, because you have to splatter it with cautionary tales. But whenever you have resources to back you up, or something that you can hand somebody that is a clinically verified document, that is something that they can ingest, that is really where the invaluable stuff comes from. Whenever you enter this program, you have access to current research. You have people that are doing current research. By the way, Nandhu, the nasal thing, I use that for like 5 of my students now, and there's 2 students that I introduced to Abigail that have a very particular voice pathology from injury. It is the only way that they can do any type of SOVT exercise, because it allows them to provide more pressurized feedback. He is a male, so if you need that for your sample size later, let me know.
Thank you.
But that is, there's things like that come up in these classes that you think it's useful information, but how am I ever going to use it? Well, I'm pretty sure I applied that to the lesson 72 hours after that was introduced to me. It worked phenomenally. We accomplished objectives that we've been working on for weeks with straw-based exercises, but simply because of his inability to fully adduct his vocal cords, that pressure feedback finally allowed that closure to take place. And it was really interesting to observe. He's also from Indonesia, so we always have some interesting time differences, but really, really interesting stuff. So I just gotta, reiterate that the information that you gather from here is completely invaluable. It's almost impossible to find it in the proper context that you yourself need that for. And honestly, it's great to just be able to spitball with other professionals that have been in the trenches. I mean, I don't really even consider myself much more than a vocal coach. Well, now I do, but before this, I certainly didn't. But I'd never encountered anybody else that was working with rock band professionals playing shows 3 hours a night, 5 nights a week. Like, those are the guys that are hiring me. How am I supposed to find other people with information that can help me with people that use their voice that ridiculously, that often, and, you know, at that degree? It's been an interesting time, shall we say, and honestly, those guys have all come back to me with sterling reviews, and it's really just because I now have confidence in resources. I have plenty of new and fresh books in my library that have been updated, thankfully, since my only 10 short years ago in undergrad. The relevant information is that's why I came back. I figured that 10 years away from the academic world would yield lots of new fresh results in voice science, and as I write. And I'm very, very glad to have had the introduction and the reintroduction into spectrogram analysis and lots of different things like that. Just phenomenal resources and information. I couldn't have built it better myself, honestly.
Hey, Keith, I think this might be a good question for you. You talked earlier about the time commitment, but how long did it take you to finish the certificate?
I'd say just about 2 years, if memory serves, a year and a half, 2 years. Honestly, it kind of all went by real fast because we had a summer off. But I do remember, I just remember submitting some very interesting vocal exercise videos to Abigail, and I was in like the weird green rooms of venues that I don't think I've been in for a year and a half in these videos. But yeah, it was about a year and a half. It wasn't that difficult of a commitment. The 6 hours a week is very, very accurate, I will have to say, too, in the grand scheme of things. Again, there's like some ebbs and flows, maybe a week or two where you might have to like buckle down a little extra, but it is completely manageable. And I never really felt like I needed to sit down and do all of the work from front to back. It was easy to piece apart and do in increments if I needed to. But it also certainly was completely palatable to sit and digest all at once as well. And a year and a half of that wasn't a struggle at all.
Okay, good, thanks. And then speaking of voice exercises, Abigail, going back to that, what do the students who want to apply for this certification, what do they need to submit?
So there is a two-step process. I know that there is the general apply Texas process that they need to complete, and that's outlined on our website. They need to submit their official transcripts. And for our particular program, we do require some supplemental materials. That's 2 letters of recommendation, a detailed CV or resume, and then a personal statement that really highlights kind of where your profession is right now, where you are in your career, and where you expect our program, what do you think we will add to your career and your goals, and what do you think you will add basically to the field of vocology when you come out of this, your professional goals?
Okay, what is the price for the program, and are scholarships offered?
So per credit, it is $275. Our entire program is 18 credits. And so it is paid basically per semester that you sign up. So some semesters are 6 credits, some semesters are only 3. So it's dependent on how many credits per semester you're enrolled in. And there are not currently any scholarships available, unfortunately, but we do have financial aid available. And so our program is approved by the Department of Education to allow that. So you can look for more information on that on our website.
Okay, and great. And what about, do we offer this program for international students as well?
Yes, we do. It's fully online, so it's accessible to anyone, anywhere with Wi-Fi.
Right. So we're nearing our 40-minute time limit, but I wanted to tell all of our participants, if you look over in the sidebar, if you push your chat button down at the bottom, you can see a link to a video that Keith made just talking about his experience as a student. It's really good. And we're going to put that up on our social media and our website, but if you want to take a look at it, he did a really, really good job. Also, I wanted to check in with Stephanie Broussard and see if she has anything to add for any of our potential students, if she's still with us.
Yeah, I'm here. So I was just going to actually put it in the chat. If you're interested in receiving a little thank you gift, like a little LU thank you gift, please make sure you put your email address in the chat so that I can follow up to get your physical address and send something to you in the mail. And I also wanted to piggyback on what Dr. Dupin mentioned about the Apply Texas. So you would start, the first thing that you would do, of course, would be to start at the Apply Texas and complete your application. We receive your application. It takes about 48 hours for us to receive your application, and then you're going to get a follow-up letter detailing what transcripts that you need to turn in. At this time, due to COVID-19, we are accepting unofficial transcripts. There is a separate portal that you have to submit your unofficial transcripts through. So if you have any questions about that, I can send you that link personally if you have any questions. But it's on our COVID-19 admissions update page, and it's under how do I submit documents to my application. But I could send the link out if you're interested. So we can review your application with unofficial transcripts, but in order to be, if you're accepted and once you're getting to the point to where you want to enroll in classes, we will need the official transcript. So keep that in mind. So it may be better just to go ahead and order the official one. And also, even though this program is online, it is still a campus-based program, correct? It's not like an AP program or anything like that?
It's an AP program.
Okay. So yeah, I know with the AP program, a lot of times those are already provided at a discounted rate. So a lot of times students really don't even need scholarships because it's pretty much pays for itself. So keep that in mind, because this is one of the most unique programs that I've ever become in contact with. So if I had the vocal cords for it, you know, I would definitely try to apply for it, but I don't. So, but yeah, this is an awesome program. So hopefully we have more students that are more engaged and wanting to go through this process.
Good deal. Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you for helping us put all of this together today. I'm going to share my email address with you. I'm trying to share my screen right now. So here's my email address. If you have any questions that we didn't get to today, or if after we end this video, if you just think of something, please email me and I will put you in touch with Abigail or or Stephanie or whoever we need to get you in touch with, and we'll help you out. Also want to remind everyone that this will be up at lamar.edu/visit, that so we can you can go back and revisit it. And thank you everyone again today. I think this was very insightful, and again, thank you so much. I hope everyone has a great week, and please feel free to email me with any questions you may have. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
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 Okay.